Have you ever wondered what gravity is really doing to you right now besides pulling you down? What if the strangest thing gravity does, I as in T, to your body, but to your seconds? Because Einstein's most disturbing discovery wasn't just that space can curve, it's that time can warp, slow, stretch, and split depending on where you are and how deeply you're inside gravity. Here's the part your intuition hates. You feel like time is a smooth river, flowing the same for everyone. One universal. Be one cosmic now. But Einstein looked at the universe and basically said, that feeling is a lie your brain tells you because it's convenient. Reality doesn't owe you a single clock. Reality doesn't even owe you a single present. And gravity is the ultimate proof. We're taught gravity is a force, an invisible hand reaching out and pulling objects together. But Einstein flipped the table. Gravity isn't a hand. It's a shape. Mass and energy don't just sit in space like furniture in a room. They deform the room itself. And the room isn't only space. It's space and time fused into one thing. So when something massive exists, Earth, the sun, a black hole, it doesn't just bend paths, it bends the rhythm of existence. That means your 1 second is not guaranteed to match someone else's 1 second. Not in a poetic way. In a literal, measurable, physics is cold way. If you're closer to a massive object, your time ticks differently than someone farther away. Don't notice it because your whole life is happening inside the same warped fabric, like a fish trying to detect the water at SI, swimming in. But the universe notices. The math notices. The clocks notice. And this is where it gets insane. Once you accept that gravity can warp time, a terrifying question appears: if time itself bends, then what exactly is the present you think you're living in? Because the moment we test this idea with real clocks, your common sense starts to collapse. And the results are not philosophical. They're physical, CTA. If this is already messing with your head, pause for 1 second, because that 1 second might not even be the same second for everyone watching. And that's not a metaphor. It's the doorway into what Einstein actually uncovered. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. Do you feel how dangerous this idea is? Because once you understand gravity warps time, you can never fully go back to the old, comfortable story where time is universal and reality is simple. So help me out, drop a comment with where your intuition breaks first. Is it the idea that there's no single now, or that 2 clocks can both be correct while disagreeing? Comment one of these exact phrases so I can see where you're at. Nitrogen monox, universal now, or time is location-based. I read these, and it helps me shape the next videos around what shocks you most. And if you want to actually understand this, not just hear a cool fact hit like, because it tells the algorithm, this kind of conceptual science is worth spreading. Subscribe to, because what comes next is where it gets even more unsettling. We're going to talk about experiments that prove this time warping is real, and why your phone's GPS literally depends on Einstein being right. If I asked you right now what time is, you wouldn't reach for a formula. You'd reach for a feeling. A sense of flow. Past behind you, future ahead, present sliding forward like a spotlight. That model feels so natural that questioning it almost feels pointless. But that comfort is exactly the trap. Your brain did not evolve to detect reality. It evolved to keep you alive. And for survival, a single shared sense of time is incredibly useful. If a predator appears, you don't want to negotiate whose now is correct. You want a fast, unified reaction. So your mind builds a simple interface, one timeline, one present, one speed of time. But Einstein showed something deeply uncomfortable. The universe does not use your interface. The idea that time flows at the same rate everywhere is not something you learned from physics. It's something you absorbed from daily life. You wake up, clocks agree, schedules work. So your brain silently concludes, time must be universal. But agreement is not proof. It's just a coincidence created by weak gravity and low speeds. You live in a gentle corner of the universe, and that has fooled you. Here's the unsettling twist. The moment conditions change, your intuition stops working. Increase speed, increase gravity. Suddenly, time refuses to behave. And this isn't a breakdown of physics. It's a breakdown of your assumptions. Einstein didn't discover time dilation by staring at clocks. He discovered it by asking a dangerous question. What would the universe have to do to keep the speed of light the same for everyone? The answer was brutal. Space would have to stretch. Time would have to slow. Reality would have to bend to protect one cosmic rule. And your sense of flowing time was the first casualty. Once you accept that, a new question starts to form. If chimi duesni t flow equally, then what exactly are clocks measuring? Because the next thing Einstein realized is even harder to accept. Clocks don't reveal time. They experience it. Everything unravels the moment light enters the story. Before Einstein, physicists quietly assumed something comforting. Speeds add normally. If you run and throw a ball, the ball goes faster. Simple, intuitive, human. But light refuses to play that game. No matter how fast you chase it, no matter how fast you move, light always pulls away at the same speed. Not almost the same, exactly the same. This is where reality turns hostile to intuition. Because if the speed of light is identical for all observers, the universe faces a problem, a brutal one. Either measurements are wrong, or space and time themselves must change, depending on who is measuring. Einstein chose the second option. Once he did, there was no way back. Think about what that means. The universe is not adjusting light to fit your motion. It's adjusting you. Your distances, your durations, your clocks, your idea of simultaneity. Light becomes the judge, and reality bends to avoid violating its verdict. This is the moment time stops being a background and becomes an active participant. Two observers moving differently do not merely disagree about time. They live inside different slices of space. Events you call now are not objectively now. They are local, personal, conditional. And gravity makes this even worse. Because gravity doesn't just slow clocks accidentally, it does it systematically. To preserve the behavior of light in a curved space-time, time itself must stretch near mass. The deeper you fall into gravity, the slower your seconds tick relative to someone higher up. Not symbolically. Physically, this is where the discomfort deepens. The universe is not built around objects and forces. It's built around constraints. And light enforces the harshest one of all. Everything else, space, time, motion must obey. So when Einstein said gravity warps time, he wasn't making poetry. He was describing the only way reality can remain internally consistent. Gravity dosen T-pool clocks. It places them in different geometries where time itself flows differently. And that leads directly to the most disturbing consequence of all. If light is the ultimate referee, and gravity reshapes space to satisfy it, then your experience of now is not a universal truth. It's a local agreement. At some point, Einstein realized something so radical, it sounds almost offensive to common sense. If gravity were a force, the universe wouldn't make sense. The equations refused to cooperate. The behavior of light near massive objects didn't line up, and time already fragile kept breaking in the same precise way. So Einstein did something almost heretical. He removed gravity from the list of forces entirely. Instead, he proposed that mass and energy change the shape of reality itself. Space is not an empty stage. Time is not a ticking background. Together, they form a four-dimensional fabricand. Massive objects. Dent it, stretch it, and twist it. What you feel as falling is just your path following the curves of that fabric. This is where time truly starts to warp. When space-time curves, the straightest possible paths through reality are no longer straight lines. And time is part of those paths. Near a massive object, the geometry tilts so sharply that moving forward in space also means moving differently through time. Clocks don't slow because something is acting on them. They slow because the shape of space-time gives them no other option. This explains something that once seemed impossible. Two clocks placed at different heights above Earth will tick at different rates. The one closer to Earth's mass lives in more curved space-time, so its seconds are shorter. Both clocks are correct. Reality itself is what disagrees. And this isn't abstract theory. Satellites orbiting Earth experience weaker gravity than you do. Their clocks run faster. Engineers have to correct for this distortion constantly. If they didn't, your GPS would drift by kilometers every single day. Your phone works because Einstein was right about time bending. Here's the unsettling shift. Gravity doesn't act on matter first and time second. It acts on space-time as a whole. Matter, motion, and clocks simply respond, which means gravity isn't something happening to time. Gravity is something happening to the universe's geometry, and time is trapped inside that geometry. And once you accept that, the next step becomes unavoidable. If gravity can warp time this gently around Earth, what happens when spacetime is bent to extremes? Here's the moment where people try to escape. They hear clocks run differently, and their brain immediately searches for a loophole. Maybe the clock is broken. Maybe it's just measurement error. Maybe it's a trick of engineering. Anything except the real conclusion. But Einstein's point is colder than that. When two perfect clocks disagree, it's not because one is wrong. It's because time itself is not a single thing. A clock isn't just a device that reports time like a thermometer reports temperature. In relativity, a clock is more like a train. It follows a path through space-time, and the time it measures is the time it experiences along that path. Different paths through curved spacetime produce different amounts of elapsed time. That's not a glitch. That's the rule. So imagine this. You stand on Earth's surface and you live your whole day. Meanwhile, a clock higher up on a mountain, in a plane, in a satellite lives a slightly different day. Not in feelings, in physics. One life contains more seconds than the other. Two versions of today exist at once, and the universe calmly allows both. Now, ask the question that stings. Which one is the real time? The honest answer is brutal. There is no single real time. There is only local time tied to motion and gravity. The universe doesn't come with a master clock hidden behind the stars. It comes with countless clocks, each telling the truth from where they are. And that destroys a belief so deep you rarely notice it. The belief that the present is shared, because if clocks can tick differently, then now it can't be universal either. 2. Observers in different gravitational fields do not slice the universe into the same present moment. They live in different cuts of space-time. Your right now is not a global time, it's a personal coordinate. This is where the story turns philosophical without leaving physics. If the present is not a single layer spread across the cosmos, then the way you imagined reality, one moving spotlight of now sweeping across a fixed past into an open future, is not a description of the universe. It's a mental convenience, and that convenience collapses the closer you get to extreme gravity. Because in extreme gravity, time doesn't just drift. It distorts so violently that the idea of before and after starts to blur. We're about to take that step. We're about to go where gravity doesn't just warp time a little, it nearly breaks it. Up to now, gravity has been warping time politely, gently, quietly enough that your brain can pretend nothing strange is happening. But the universe doesn't. Stopitere. It keeps pushing the idea until it becomes impossible to ignore. Enter black holes. A black hole is not just a heavy object. It's gravity taken to an extreme, where space-time is bent so severely that the usual rules stop feeling familiar. Near a black hole, time doesn't merely slow down. It begins to separate realities. Imagine two observers. One stays far away, watching safely from a distance. The other falls toward the black hole. From the outside observer's perspective, something shocking happens. The falling person never seems to cross the edge. Their motion slows. Their clock ticks more and more slowly. Each second stretches longer than the last. Time itself appears to freeze. But here's the twist that breaks intuition completely. For the falling observer, nothing special happens at that moment. Their clock keeps ticking normally, their thoughts flow. Their heart beats. They cross the horizon in finite time, without fireworks or alarms. Two realities, two timelines, both correct. This is not an illusion or a trick of perspective. It's a direct consequence of how gravity sculpts space. Near the black hole, the geometry tilts so violently that future directions point inward. Time becomes directional, not metaphorically geometrically. This is where the idea of the future starts to lose its universal meaning. For the distant observer, the future of the falling object never quite arrives. For the falling observer, the future continues relentlessly forward. One person sees eternity, the other sees a few seconds. So ask yourself the uncomfortable question: whose future is real? And it gets worse. As gravity intensifies, the distinction between space and time begins to blur. Near the horizon, moving forward in time becomes as unavoidable as moving forward in space. You don't choose the future. You fall into it the way you fall downward. Time becomes less like a dimension you travel through and more like a force you cannot resist. This is the moment Einstein's universe stops feeling like a place and starts feeling like a structure, rigid, indifferent, and deeply non-human. Your sense of flowing time is no longer a guide. It's a liability. Because if gravity can reshape time this dramatically, then the question isn't whether time is warped. The question is whether time was ever what you thought it was in the first place. At this point, there's no comfortable version of reality left to retreat to. Gravity doesn't just slow clocks. It doesn't just stretch seconds. It dismantles the very idea that time is a universal stage where everything happens together. And once you see that, a deeper question becomes impossible to avoid. If Chimmy bends, what exactly are you moving through? You've been taught to imagine yourself traveling through time, moment by moment, as if now we're a glowing dot sliding along a line. But Einstein's universe doesn't contain that line. It contains a structure, a vast, four-dimensional geometry where past, present, and future are not flowing. They are placed. In this picture, you're not moving through time the way a train moves through space. You are tracing a path through space-time, like a needle stitching a pattern into fabric. Your life is not something unfolding against time. Your life is a shape in space-time. That's the quiet horror of it. Gravity doesn't warp time around you because you exist first, and time reacts later. Gravity and time are part of the same object. When space-time curves, you're now curves with it. Your present is not a slice shared by the universe. It's a local cross-section your brain constructs to stay sane. This is why Einstein's ideas feel disturbing instead of comforting. They suggest that the future may already exist as part of the structure, just as real as the past. Not determined by fate or prophecy, but fixed geometrically, the way cities are fixed on a map, even if you haven't visited them yet. You don't feel this because evolution never prepared you for it. Your consciousness experiences time sequentially because that's a survival interface, not because reality is sequential. The universe doesn't update itself frame by frame. It simply is. And gravity exposes that truth mercilessly. The closer you look, the more the idea of a universal present dissolves. What remains is something colder and stranger, a universe where now is not a feature of reality, but a feature of perception, a useful illusion riding on top of curve. Space-time. So when you ask whether gravity warps time, the real answer is more unsettling than yes or no. Gravity reveals that time was never flat to begin with. If you made it all the way here, you're already part of a rare group people who are willing to let their intuition break in public. And that deserves one last step. First, If this video rewired the way you think about reality, subscribe, because we're going to keep pushing these ideas further. Time, light, gravity, the now, and the terrifying places where Einstein's universe stops feeling human. Second, leave a like if you want more science. That doesn't just explain facts, but destroys the mental shortcuts you've been relying on your whole life. It genuinely helps this reach the curious minds who are ready for it. And now I want to comment from you something specific so I know you actually stayed to the end. Comment this exact phrase: time is a shape. Or, if you want to be even bolder, comment, there is nitrogen monoxide universal. Now, I'll be looking for those, and I reply to a lot of them. Finally, don't click away, watch the next video that's appearing on your screen right now, because it connects directly to what you just learned. And the next twist is even more unsettling than gravity warping time.